Well, good morning. This is Studio C, the listening room. I'm Michael Snyder Barker.
And I'm Andy Schiller.
We have our special guest, Dan Kesterke.
Round of applause.
Yay!
Hey.
Golf clap.
You should get an award for saying my last name right the first time. That's always my dose of humility.
I've been aware of you for a lot longer than when I first met you 10, 12, whatever years ago. So, you know, I'm a wordsmith. Words are my art.
Okay.
So I have to say your name right.
Well, I appreciate it.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dan.
So I'm a band director. I've been teaching for 22 years. Start 23rd year next year. I play in all sorts of groups. Thank you for accommodating my schedule today because we have a rehearsal starting at 1 at the Croswell. We're starting with Bring It On.
Okay.
So we have production for that, and I appreciate you guys being
Where are you a band director at?
I'm at Siena Heights University. So
there's
been some news this week.
Yeah, there's a little bit of news this week. I am an alumni also, and I heard the sad news that they will be closing after the end of, is it next year?
Yeah, next academic year. So
yeah, that's so sad.
It is, but you know, like
life happens.
Life happens, and we're really thankful to the sisters for giving us a year to plan.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I don't really want to start on that painful note.
We can add it to the next
just brings us way down at the very beginning, and you know, I really appreciate you coming in. And I know you've done a lot of wonderful things with Siena Heights and their students, as well as a whole lot of other local musicians.
Yeah. That working with the students on the education side, music ed is always the best part. You know, and you guys do that too. Well, thank you for doing that. And when our students graduate, I mean, it really is kind of like kicking a bird out of a nest and supporting them. So. Just like parents would support their kids even into their adult years, like both my colleague and I, Dr. Ford, we support them once they get their jobs, and they've been really super successful, and we're really proud of them.
Yeah, good deal. So, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in an area, southwest Michigan. So Buchanan, Michigan was where I went to school for a long time, and my family's from Berrien Springs. Okay. So my dad and uncle and my grandparents grew up there. And so we were about 15 minutes from there. And then both my parents were educators. So they started as teachers in the Cassopolis School District and the Niles School District.
Okay.
My dad did elementary ed, so he taught 4th grade. And then my mom was a special education teacher.
Okay.
My dad kept going to school as teachers do and got his administrative certificate and became an assistant principal in Niles and then a principal in Cass. And then the summer after my freshman year in Buchanan, he got a job up in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And so
nice.
The whole family went up there, and that's kind of where I had always been into music, and I was playing, and I was playing in the marching band in Buchanan and doing all sorts of things. But then when I saw the guys who were up there, the way that they were playing, it's like, okay, that's a different level. Like, what's going on? You know, like, these guys are just smoking me. I mean, I used to show up at rehearsal in my old school and read the part, and everyone was like, oh, you can play in time. And so I thought that's all it was. But then, these guys had complete mastery of rudiments, and, their 2-mallet and 4-mallet playing was just phenomenal, but they were great people as well and wonderful musicians. Like, their phrasing was a very specific thing. You could hear it. And so I did some, I don't know, as a sophomore without the internet does, did some research and asking around, and they were students of Mr. Honer, Robert Honer, up at Central Michigan.
Okay.
And come to find out, tiny little Mount Pleasant, a Division I MAC school, but it's not like the size of Michigan or Michigan State. At the time had a teacher there who was a world-renowned percussion instructor. And I'm like, cool, that's where I want to go. So I finished my last 3 years of school in Mount Pleasant High School, go Oilers. And then went straight over to Central Michigan. So I was kind of like part townie, part, student. Right. And spent, 5 years studying. Mr. Horner passed away, unfortunately, a few years into my education there. And then that kind of makes you change what your priorities are going to be.
I almost went to Central. Back then we called it Party Central. But they had a music, recording kind of degree. Like I wanted to record music. I wanted to work in a recording studio. And I checked out Central's studio. They had TV and radio broadcasting facilities.
Yep.
And I was like, great, sign me up. And they're like, I'm so glad you want to be a journalism major, Andy. And I was like, journalism? It's a music major, right? Oh, music majors don't use the studio. It's for
What?
journalism class. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a journalism major. So I ended up at Siena.
All right.
You know, that's what brought me to Adrian College, though. I mean, I was going to explore a psychology degree. Plus, they also had a radio and television program. And so I was on WVAC, 10 watts of pure power in mono for all my student years at Adrian College.
You can hear it all the way out to the parking lot, right?
That's fantastic.
I would always say halfway across campus. You know, I'd get that DJ voice, and that is stole from Arthur Penhollow from WRIF. If anybody's
WRIF,
yeah, Arthur P.
No, it was so I think that's Moore Hall is where the journalism thing was at Central, and there was a brand new music building, and I was the first class to go in once they opened it up there, and so we did a lot of stuff across the parking lot. Well, it's next door to each other with Moore Hall, so like they would run the musicals. That's where they would do, and so like the music majors would fill in the pit for that, and that was kind of like my first taste of playing musical theater was playing on campus at Central Michigan. So.
Yeah.
Musical theater, and you mentioned you're gonna play at the Croswell, and pit gigs are pretty good paying gigs for musicals and opera and theater, and I've just recently discovered like there's a budget for those shows. My wife actually has been making masks, wigs, and costumes for a lot of Croswell plays, and also here at the TLC. And so she got like, we want you to braid the hair of every wig in the show, and she's like, great, how many are there? 30. Tell you what, I'll do 3.
Yep.
And find a team, because I can't do 30. So anyway, there's definitely a demand for people to work those shows.
There is, and Lenawee County is such a unique area because musical theater in this area is so big and so prevalent.
It really is.
Thank you to the Croswell, really, because they've paid for a lot of musicians to allow them to do a little bit of a side hustle and continue playing. I usually do about 2 or 3 shows a year there. I mean, there was a year I think I did 4 or 5, and it felt like I was like a full-time performer at the Croswell. Some of the guys who play there play almost every single show, like 99% of the shows, and they're really great friends. And it's just like they spend a lot of time down there. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, sure. And so, when did you start playing at the Croswell? Was it as soon as you came to Siena?
Well, I started as a band director in Addison, Michigan in 2003-ish, something like that. Yeah. And so, really, like, the person who gave me the opportunity to do it was Linda Dietrich. You probably know her from Siena Heights.
Gunner's mom is how I know Linda.
Yeah, she's awesome. But I got hooked into that because she ran the Siena Heights Youth Orchestra for a long time.
Yeah.
And she was always looking for kind of like half hybrid teachers and players, and they needed a percussion teacher for a while. And she asked if I would come out and volunteer, and so I did. I think that for like 1 or 2 seasons over there, and worked with the percussionists. And she let one of her friends know, Jonathan Sills, that I was a person that could be trusted and play. And I was still kind of early 20s. So Jonathan gives me a chance, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then I didn't look at my calendar correctly, and halfway through the show, I was going to be in Europe with one of my buddies. So like right away, you trip over yourself and get an opportunity. And oh, by the way, I'm going to need a sub for the second weekend because I'm going to be in Europe. So,
but it's always nice to have a busy musician that's doing stuff to play for you. Rather than getting that guy that's like, I got all day.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that means you don't have any gigs.
Right. Yeah, there's a fine line between that. It's almost like, when you go to an employer and you're applying for a job, and like, well, what have you been doing for 9 years? Are you a person we want to hire? So it's, there's a fine line on that for sure.
I played drums at the TCA years ago, probably 15, 18 years ago when I just moved to town. And I played drums in the play Grease. I can't read a lick of drum music, so I just winged it. And sometimes I did a little too much, sometimes I did a little too little. I wasn't even ready, but it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, no, playing especially Grease. That's a really fun book.
Yeah.
This one coming up, like with Bring It On specifically, like the drum part, it's a part Lin-Manuel Miranda show. So like a lot of like Hamilton callbacks and In the Heights type stuff in it. So like the drum parts are written pretty specifically. So
Sure.
I'm really fortunate that I can kind of read it. And then we're running all click tracks on this one because they have.
Yeah, good.
They're gonna have like they did recorded backing tracks for some parts because it's just like impossible for the kids to like recreate some of those harmonies while they're dancing and flipping and stuff.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be that's gonna be a first for us. I was hanging out with one of the vocal directors last night, and she showed me some of the recordings. Mandy Cruz, shout out to Mandy. She showed me some of the stuff they did in studio in Perrysburg. Yeah, it sounded great. So and she goes, and we'll be there for your first read. And I'm like, oh no, the first read is always kind of a little stressful.
Sure. But if you don't have a little bit of positive stress, then you're just kind of a wet noodle.
For sure. Yeah, you don't want to be a lump, especially for being a drummer. And the drummers really push the musicals, especially the modern ones. So hopefully I come in there with a big smile on my face and hit stuff. And
my internet friend, Rick Beato, he doesn't know me, but I consider him my friend.
Me too. Thank you for the mentorship. Yeah.
But so Rick Beato would say, the latest thing that is in music right now, is only getting more and more popular, is you got that click track with the backing. Maybe it has backing vocals, or maybe it has a keyboard part, or maybe it has sound effects. Everybody plays along, and then you hear the click track, but the audience doesn't. The cues come up. One of my favorite bands is Polyphia, okay? They have that click in their ear the whole time, and so when they hit the break, there's like this tinkling keyboard, or there's a wind sound effect or whatever, and it's cued, off stage. It's not anything they're not making that sound on stage, but they play along with it. And boy, to be the drummer must be pretty hard, because you got to just stay on that click for the whole show.
Right.
Yeah, it can be challenging, but I try to build it so that I'm always practicing to a click.
Yeah.
But obviously, like in orchestral music, which I've been able to have the privilege of doing that with the Adrian Symphony Orchestra for a long time, and jazz, obviously, like you don't necessarily want that, because you want to be able to, like, as an artist, like stretch and pull time, or drummers rush, and sometimes like the beginning of the song sounds different, but that's
drummers rush.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, how do you know there's a drummer at your door? The knocking speeds up. So, but I think too, like in those live instances where you're feeding off the crowd's energy, that's really fun, especially when you're walking that tightrope. But I think when people come to see a production, and even like with the rock band that I'm playing in right now.
Tell us about it.
Oh, thanks. It's called Flowers on the Grave. It's all original music.
Nice.
We have presence on Spotify and YouTube and on all the stuff.
We'll put links down.
We'll put a link down below so people can check it out and listen to it.
Yeah, we just released our first full-length album in April. And we're doing a reverse album release on the digital streaming platforms. So,
can you describe what that means?
Sure. We haven't seen a whole lot of people do this, so we're kind of trying it out.
Yeah.
But Spotify and Apple Music, I mean, it's kind of like going to a farmer's market, and there's just like, except the farmer's market is 1 billion people or whatever, and you set up your stand. And so they've kind of, the music industry and some of the big labels have figured out a way to make their stand look like a mile long before you get to the individual proprietors at the end.
Sure.
And so we're kind of an independent, unsigned band trying to, buy attention. Yeah. But it's really cool music. We just released, we're working on releasing. It was supposed to come out on July 4th, but we had an issue with our digital distributor, TuneCore. But hey, we'll work it out. It's not a dig.
I like CD Baby.
Yeah, we've tried CD Baby.
Yeah.
So, but their pricing plan worked a little better for us. But CD Baby's great, and so we're working it out. But we did a cover of Steve Winwood's "Higher Love,"
Oh,
so it's pretty cool. But our very first single that was successfully launched, we did a 2-month campaign on it, was Fields of Green, so that's pretty
Okay.
cool. It's kind of like a callback to Grand Funk Railroad's American Band.
Okay.
So it's
very
got some
nice.
cowbell, kind of about the same
Well, you
tempo.
gotta have more cowbell, man.
More songs need more cowbell, so that's why we let off with it. So it's a lot of fun. But all the guys are from the Jackson area, so
Okay.
we say that we're from Jackson. Our guitarist is from Eaton Rapids, so about 20 minutes north, and then the bass player and the guitar player and singer, they're from the Spring Arbor area. So yeah, we were a COVID baby. So Kenny, the singer and guitarist, he and I played in a country band called Copper Stills.
Okay.
And we were in Jackson for about, 5-6 years. And COVID happened, and Kenny was doing some original music and recording with the guys from Sponge. So
Okay,
Andy and Tim
nice.
Padawan.
Nice.
And he did like a solo project, and then the next one he asked me to come play drums on. And so I got to meet Andy and kind of work through that single. And then during COVID, like the Copper Stills band was mostly covers, and the gigs dried up, and the singer was going to move, and so we did kind of an official like last day breakfast and gave each other hugs and
Wow.
broke it up, and then
And it was all kind of positive. Everybody got along.
oh yeah.
I've never heard of that before. The band breaks up with a hug.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we
That's
knew like
different.
That's beautiful.
Our directions were changing, and we knew that like this original rock band was going to be something that we were going to continue.
Nice.
And so Manny, who played bass on the 2 studio recordings, joined, and then we did a third one, which is a little more heavy and progressive. And then we had to do guitar auditions because Kenny was recording all the guitar stuff, like
Okay.
lead and rhythm.
Sure.
And a recommendation from one of our guys that we recorded our third song with, recommended Nathaniel, and he came in and auditioned, and at that time he played the original tune better than all of us played it. And we're like, oh, we need to practice a little more. He came in so prepared, and he's kind of, I like to call him the rock star of the group because he's a little like, he's really super creative and thinks like in a completely different way.
Okay.
And it's a breath of fresh air when he comes in because it's almost like he throws knuckle curveballs at us all the time. They're great. I mean, some of the directions of the songs that he's added, it's just, I wouldn't have imagined it. It's really, really cool.
Cool.
So yeah.
Sounds like you're really proud of this group.
Yes.
Since this will air next Sunday, do you have any performances coming up beyond a week from Sunday?
Well, because I'm doing the musical right now, like we have about a 2-week dark or two week dark area, but we're doing a private party at the end of July, and then in August we start late August into September we start picking up again.
Okay.
Because I'm doing another musical in August. I mean, like the part about playing in a live original band, you don't make as much money as like a cover band or a tribute band. So,
Of course, I understand.
yeah, sometimes we have to balance out the art with paying the bills. So,
Yeah.
but the guys are super busy too. Like all 4 of us. Like Nathaniel does sound for a lot of different bands in the Jackson area, so he'll get hired on as a sound engineer to come in.
Most
and mix their
important
stuff.
band member.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And Kenny does a lot of solo acoustic guitar stuff, kind of like what Andy does. So he has a few wineries up in the Jackson area that he plays, and Manny plays. He's called in to cover bass stuff.
No. Well,
Yeah.
bass players are always in need.
Yeah, well, and it's summertime too, so like all of us have kids, and we want to enjoy our
Right.
kids, and
Right.
so there's planned vacations that we're working around. So
Yeah.
summer's kind of a hard time.
Got to
for us.
enjoy them while you can. My little one's 33.
Excellent. Yeah, my little one just turned 16. He's driving on his own, so that's been kind of a trip. He's awesome, super responsible.
Nice.
Did every single one of those hours on the Road Ready app. Knocked it out.
Well, obviously he has a great dad.
Well, we try. You
Yeah.
know, it's effort
Oh.
every day.
Man, been there,
Yeah.
done that, and he's currently there.
Yep, my daughter is 13 now, so I guess that says it all.
Yep.
Who's also a talented musician.
Plays the cello, yep,
Right on.
and knows Logic Pro and can engineer, so that's great.
That is almost equally as important. Is she in Amy's group in Tecumseh?
She played violin with Mrs. Bowers. Is that who you're asking about?
Oh, well, she
For-
takes lessons with Julianne.
Okay.
Right?
Well, one or two times, like when she was younger, it was before the pandemic, I got invited to play guitar with the violin. Shout out to Bowers String Studio in Adrian, because they're just the best. They're great.
Yeah.
The kids play so well and know for the songs. Hey Andy, come accompany us. We're not gonna have piano at this concert. We're gonna have guitar accompaniment to Suzuki violin songs. Oh, Suzuki violin songs. I know every single one of those by heart. I don't even need a book, because I did Suzuki violin for 10 years.
Oh.
So I could play the accompaniment parts like with my eyes closed, right? So I played a concert in downtown Adrian. It was like the Band on the Bricks or Art Walk, or it was in the downtown area, and they had all the streets closed off.
Artalicious.
Artalicious, that was
Yeah.
it. And my daughter played violin, and I played guitar. And so my daughter didn't study at the Bowers studio, but was just invited to play along with the other kids. And I had taught her enough where she could play along on a lot of the songs. But now her instrument is cello, and she does practice every day, and she has joined the orchestra at the middle school. But we've started to just do private lessons, her and I together, once a week. And we're just doing, the Bach cello suite, and
Oh, geez.
do you know all your scales? Like, play the scales in all 12 keys, go.
Yep.
That kind of lessons. So
Those are important. My both my kids play an instrument. So Ian's a percussionist. He's my oldest, and he started on trumpet because back in the day when I was teaching at Adrian High School, the program's instrumentation was like really kind of messed up. It was heavy, like I don't know, like I started in 2008 there, and we had about 40 to 50 percussionists between 7th grade and high school. And
Wow.
I don't know if you've ever taught like a large instrument ensemble, but if percussionists have nothing to do, they literally will light the room on fire in the back. I mean, it's
they
just
just start hitting things.
it's who we are as people, because
I know,
we're like
I get it.
tapping and like we got to hit something.
Right.
And so my colleague Sherry Powers and I at the time just decided it's like for 5th and 6th grade band, because it was beginning band. I mean, even though drums are cool and saxophones are cool and French horns are cool or whatever, like it's going to be flute, clarinet, trumpet, and trombone. Just to kind of figure out who's going to, because they're smaller instruments,
Sure.
like who's going to learn these instruments well, so that when it's time to switch to like a secondary instrument like percussion or French horn or saxophone, they're going to actually stick with it.
I mean, carrying around about 3 different timpanis would be a headache.
When I started in 5th grade band a long time ago, I had a percussion kit, and it had like a tiny bell kit and a snare drum and a stand in it. And like I was all of 10 and like could barely carry that
Yeah.
frickin' square case on
That's,
the bus.
that's why I play guitar now.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for those of you who want to play a small instrument, piccolo is just fine.
Although, my Zen drum is kind of cool.
Oh yeah,
It's just-
that is cool.
Yeah, it's connected to an Alesis module, and
Okay.
it has all, the drum sounds, and it's sensitive enough to be quiet when you play soft and louder when you play louder.
That is a cool. Was that designed by Future Man?
Well, it's based on Future Man's,
Okay.
original. I mean, his looks a lot cooler than this Fisher Price looking toy.
Well, he was kind of like the Eddie Van Halen of electric drums, man.
Oh, man.
He just figured it out.
Yeah. So I didn't mind hauling that around in the module.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun. But, I met Andy. Well, I mean, I was aware of Andy, just like I was aware of you. And I contacted him, and lo and behold, he lives like 2 blocks away from here. And we started lessons online during COVID. And it wasn't as fun as lessons in person.
It's true.
Never is.
What was that like for you, trying to teach percussion and trying to teach the orchestra online?
Well, I had so I was at Siena Heights when that happened, and we had a bunch of music majors who had to go through woodwind techniques, right?
Yeah.
And so I taught all the techniques classes, so
Okay.
woodwind, brass, percussion, and then most recently strings. And I do not consider myself a violin player. Those of you who can play violin, cello, viola, bass without the frets, I mean, kudos. That's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's so hard.
Just
Especially,
listen.
oh my gosh. I mean, there's
Is that third in tune? Slide up a little bit. Play sharp if you need to.
I think that was the most frustrating thing for me, even teaching, is like
Yeah.
I know my finger's down, and the tuner says like I'm plus 15 cents sharp, and you're just like, dang it, you know. So that kind of, I mean, yeah, like I can understand like when you're 3, 4, or 5 starting on Suzuki, because it takes that much time to be even a competent musician getting into beginning orchestra and middle.
You know, violin and clarinet are the two instruments where the first sound you make is a little cringy.
Oh.
You know, it's going to squeak, and you just have to be able to get past that.
Yep.
And, you know, try it a second time and a third time, and it gets better.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you can break the ice on clarinet too by just giving them the barrel and the mouthpiece, and then it's going to sound horrible anyway. And then they're like, "Trust me, it's going to be better if you can get this thing to sound."
So you are a drummer. That's who you are in your being.
Yeah.
What else do you play?
I play a lot of stuff. So, like, for my undergraduate, it was all classical percussion and solo percussion.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to go through all of the orchestra rep as well as like 4 mallet rep and 2 mallet rep,
Yeah.
and then timpani and like all the stuff. So everything that somebody can hit, like I've had some training on, and I've had to teach it.
But what about non-percussive instruments?
Right. So, like me teaching woodwind tech, I have to be able to play flute, clarinet, saxophone, all the saxophones,
Yeah.
oboe, bassoon's really hard. That's the one I'll admit. That one's really hard. And then for brass, it's the same thing. So trumpet, French horn, trombone, baritone, tuba, euphonium. Excuse me for the low brass people. And then you know, for strings, we focused on violin because a lot of the way that our program was set up, because Siena Heights doesn't have an official collegiate orchestra. There's just not enough people
Right.
to fill one. Who are majors and who want to continue with it. So it was kind of more for like choir directors and band directors who were getting set up to go to a small to medium-sized school.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're going to be the band director or choir director, and you're going to get everything you ever wanted as far as the classes you're going to teach, but we really need help on your 7th hour to cover 6th grade violins or 6th grade orchestra. And so really, like, it was like, okay, if you're put in that situation, this is how you survive the first semester and the first year.
Yeah.
So we help them with like getting all the methods put together and the curriculum put together and how to get really good sound so that they're ahead of their 10 and 11-year-olds, knowing full well that they're going to be playing along with them for as long as they're in that position.
Right.
So that really kind of gives them a head start in making sure that they know what they know, but they also know what they need to get
Sure.
later on.
Sure.
Yeah, Siena. I went to Siena again. I know I said that earlier, but I was in the string quartet because, like you were saying, they didn't have an orchestra. And in the string quartet, I was second violin because, you know, there were 2 violin players at the school.
Excellent.
I was
Nice job.
second violin.
That's quite an achievement.
Yeah.
Second out of 2.
First violin was Damian Wilburn, and I don't know if either of you have heard of Damian Wilburn, but I think she goes by Dame now, Dame Wilburn. And she graduated from Siena with a degree in violin, and now she's one of the hosts for the Moth Story Hour.
Oh, that's
nice.
fantastic. I have
NPR.
heard her name on NPR.
Yep.
Does she do the stuff in Michigan or all over the country?
She hosts like the Moth Story Hour in Michigan, yeah,
Okay.
for the Detroit one.
Good for her.
So
That's
you
really-
know a famous person.
I know a famous person. Shout out to Dame, and I enjoyed playing in the string quartet with you, but also enjoyed the Moth Stereo. I keep saying stereo. Story Hour.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, do you think she'd be available to come on a podcast?
Oh, we should have her as a guest.
Yeah.
She plays violin like crazy.
She'd be fantastic. Is she still playing?
Yeah, and singing, and plays guitar too. In fact, I think I sold her a guitar back in the day.
Tell her you want it back.
I have a funny story about Dame Wilburn, and I'll keep it short. But the story is there was Siena Heights talent show, and they had it in this, you know, it was the brand new building. We just called it the new building because it didn't have a name yet. It wasn't even dedicated. It's the one where the computer lab is now.
Oh, yep.
It was called the new building. And we had this talent show, and I prepared for it for weeks, and I was doing this guitar thing, and I had this stereo echo, and I had 2 little amps, and I was like, I'm going to put this amp on this side of the stage, I'm going to put this amp on this side of the stage, and I'm going to play, it's going to echo here, then there, then here, and there. Had it on like a 4-second delay. So I wrote a composition where every measure I played, that measure would play back while I played the next measure.
Interesting.
So it was like a 4-beat delay, and I was like, this is going to blow everybody away. And I got up there and I played my song, and to crickets, like everyone was just kind of sitting there. This was before cell phones. But,
Right.
And at the end, there was like there was 3 claps, right?
Yep.
And then the judges were like, okay, well, give us a minute to tally up our scores. And one person that was too afraid to participate in the contest went up there and told jokes while the judges tallied up their final scores or whatever. And then Dame opens up the back door of the auditorium and goes, 5 minutes, everybody. She has on her campus security uniform because she has to lock the building and make sure no one's in the building, kick everybody out, and lock the door in 5 minutes. And they were like, Dame, come on in. Get up there and sing a song. I'm on duty. What do you think? I'm working. And y'all got to leave in 5 minutes. There's time to do one more song. Fine, I'll get up there. And she had a mic. She goes, what song do I do? I don't even have my guitar. Just sing a song a cappella. Fine, what song should I sing? Sweet Child of Mine. Okay, and so she proceeds to sing Sweet Child of Mine a cappella in like kind of a gospel choir kind of sound.
Wow.
And I was just like on the edge of my seat going,
Well, yeah.
Dang, she's got pipes. And at the end, the judges got up there and they were like, 3rd place goes to, I forget. 2nd place goes to Andy Schiller with his guitar thing. 1st place goes to Dame Wilburn for a cappella Sweet Child of Mine. She hadn't even entered the contest, right? She was just the campus security guard that came to lock the door. And she won.
You know,
The end.
I did campus security at Adrian College. However, I don't have any stories like that.
Oh, that you're not allowed to say.
No, I had no interesting.
Can't tell us.
Yeah. We had to sign an NDA.
No interesting occurrences. Not
man.
a one. It was. I barely remember. It's just like
Well, perhaps that's a different time because
it was a different time.
they didn't have a hockey team at that time.
Oh gosh, they did not.
Yep.
Yeah, I graduated from Adrian College in '88.
Okay.
So that's 100 years ago.
Yep.
Okay, let's pause for just a second.
Sure.
Because, memory's full on this. And so I'm just going to clear some memory and we'll just keep going.
Cool. No worries.
We'll
Yeah.
edit this part out.
Yay!
Why? I mean, this is the best part.
Why start now, right?
I knew you'd been at Adrian College. I think that's where I became aware of
Adrian High School.
Adrian High
Yeah,
School, rather.
yeah.
That's where I became aware of you. But-
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, like trying to get a band to perform well is already difficult. But we were doing it during the almost depression, in 2008. That was when I came in.
Yeah, the recession.
Yep, we went from a really large school. I'd say like 12 or 1,300 kids at the time, and I know it's smaller than when Andy and my wife went to school, but it dropped in like 2 or 3 years to 900 kids.
Oh man.
We just were like hemorrhaging
Is
families.
that because of school of choice?
No, they were moving.
Oh, yeah.
They were moving. to
Jobs
where
were
the are.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, a lot of people moved to the Carolinas.
Yeah.
They moved to Virginia. They moved kind of where the big, right now, like the population boom. So southern East Coast is where a lot of people are moving, where the work is.
Do you give private lessons?
I do.
Okay. Do you have a studio?
Yeah, I teach out of Siena Heights.
Okay. So I was
So-
going to say, we have space here for drum lessons and a drum set set up.
That'd be awesome. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, it's the way that I teach is the way that I was brought up through the college, right? So it's kind of like Mr. Honer's recipe that I've kind of figured out to like.
Sure.
And we really don't touch drum set until the kids
Oh.
can play practice pad like super well.
Sure.
Have you ever read Planet Drum by Mickey Hart?
No,
Great
but I know who
drummer.
he is. I know he is. Yeah.
He has a great book where he talks about how he went to India to go study with a percussion drum guru guy.
Mm-hmm.
And traveled all the way out to this guru's location and sat on the mat on the floor and was like, all right, where's your drum set? And the guy was like, drum set? First you have to learn the rudiments. Repeat after me. Yep. So he had to learn all 56 rudiments and sing them before he was allowed to grab the sticks and to play them on the drums.
Well, tabla is hard. Tabla is so hard, and especially because of the way they do their rhythm cycles.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they even call them, like the raga or whatever. Oh my gosh.
Some of them are really long.
Yes.
Like 56 beat cycles that you repeat.
Those guys are like insane. And then there's even like I met a drummer from Israel, and even like the Israeli song cycles that they come up with, like, and he was just like playing frame drum and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, because like he does like the different parts of the drum and taps and fingers and hand. I'm like, there's some great musicians out there.
My kid went to school out in Pennsylvania for a year and a half, 2 years, and was living with and so there was some people that my kid went to school with that were Hare Krishnas.
Yep.
And I went to a party at one of their houses, and I'm a drummer, and they were playing these rhythms on the tabla that I just
it's all
I'm
fingers, isn't it?
I mean, I can play fingers, I do that on the cajon. That's easy, but not to what they were playing. That was incredibly complicated. I just sat back in awe.
Yep. We saw, there was I can't think of his name, but there was a famous tabla drummer that came through Central Michigan at the time, and I remember seeing that for the first time, and like our percussion studio, half of our percussion studio showed up to watch it. And it was kind of like not attended very well. And like he just proceeded to just rip the house down. And we were just like, why aren't more people here? Like, it was just like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
I know.
So it's just, I mean, the complexity of music and what humans have done over time to build on the systems that they started with thousands and thousands of years ago. Like there's some people who just master it and just, wow, mind-blowing.
Sometimes it's hard for me to play 7/8 on the drums, let alone what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. It always feels like you're playing 4/4, but not quite.
Yeah. So what's the most interesting experience you've had on stage?
Oh, man.
The one most, or the 10 most.
All right, I'll do like an awesome one, and then I'll do like local band, like Guitar Hero one, right? Okay. So the most awesome one I think was when we opened for Eve 6 and did a festival up in Jackson, Michigan. And
as in the Dan Kesterke?
No. Our rock band, so Flowers on the Grave. So that was for the last couple summers.
That's cool.
They've had a thing called Hear This Fest, and it was up in there was a vet ground, just north of 94. It's like a dinosaur putt place. I forget what it was called, but they put some stages up, and we got to play up there. And the guys from Sponge played, so we were able to connect with them. And playing to like an entire lawn of people was an absolute blast. And like to even have them like remotely interested in what we were doing, but like have like a positive response from it, like we really earned our audience, and that was a lot of fun. And then like we had our merch table back with all the other big name acts, and we got to kind of hang out with them. So it was really, really a cool experience. Once we get past the local non-touring tier, I mean, there's an entire different world out there for people who do this as a thing.
Yeah, Eve 6 is kind of on the next level. What was their hit song now? Can't remember.
What song is that called?
They had a radio hit.
Inside Out.
I think that was it, yeah.
Yep.
I
had to sing through the tune.
Well, you have to.
But they were really cool. But I thought what was interesting about watching them too is that, so Eve 6 hit when I was in college, so 1999, 2000-ish.
Sure.
And I remember working university events at Central Michigan, setting up for their show, and it was them and Third Eye Blind.
Oh, nice.
Those are the two. And I remember it was that moment actually where being a roadie is not being a musician. like you're surrounded by music,
Yeah.
but the job that you're doing is not playing drums. It's like dealing with like motorized chains that are greasy as heck, and you have to like hold onto them with your gloves to make sure that they go into the box correctly, and it's lifting really super heavy stuff, and it's having
That's very glamorous.
oh yeah,
How
having
the
like
groupies go for the...
oh no, it wasn't us, but they but Third Eye Blind, you say this, had a young woman and her mother following their tour, and her whole job was to get up behind like this like big giant white curtain, and one of the roadies would take like a spotlight and she'd take off all of her clothes, so like the band saw this young woman and her mom going like this, which I thought was really weird.
My God.
But like then like the audience just saw the silhouette, and then like the curtain would fall and she'd run off stage, and the band would start. It was really weird. And I asked one of the roadies, and the roadie's like, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, do you pay her to do this? He goes, no, she does this for free. She's been following us for 6 months.
Oh,
and they just let her do it. So there's that. But I remember distinctly after that concert going, I don't want to, like, for the guys who run road and do that technical work, it's such an important job.
It is.
And it's a young person's job.
Oh, man.
Like if you're in your early 20s to late 20s or whatever, it's a fantastic way to see the world and do the music scene. But for me, I remember at that point going, this isn't what I want to do.
I had a friend that followed the Grateful Dead for 6 months in a van, and I guess it was probably fun, but my question to her was, how did you make it? I mean, did you just save up, or did people just give you food, or like what was your situation? And she was like, oh, they didn't really care if we sold stuff in the parking lot. So she was saying she would just go to the grocery store and fill a cooler with Coke and ice, and then she'd sit in the parking lot and sell cans of Coke. And so that's how she made enough money to drive to the next thing and eat that day.
That's amazing.
They never cracked down on, hey, you're not allowed to sell stuff in the parking lot of the Grateful Dead show. It was like a flea market, basically. People selling necklaces and other illicit things, but
Right.
things that you'd want if you were at a music fest,
Yeah, help enjoy the Grateful Dead a little more. But isn't it's almost like a pirate's life, but now it's like road musicians, right? And then like it takes like an entire tour to go from point A to point B, but everybody who follows are like those commissary ships or whatever. They just kind of follow along and
Right.
keep people like hydrated and stuff.
Supply lines.
It's crazy. So the worst experience, and if you're playing in a local group, like you're gonna have these gigs. We were invited to play at a venue that I'm not gonna like rip on, but it was like the weirdest place we've ever played. It was sort of like part like abandoned factory, part haunted house, part like weird stuff, part like Spirit of Halloween, and like you couldn't quite tell where the entrance to the venue was, but even if you knew where the entrance to the venue was, you wouldn't get walk-ups to it because it was kind of a desolated area of the city, and anybody walking by themselves probably didn't have a business being on the street walking there. And we played to another band because the opening band didn't feel like continuing to play or continuing to hang out. Like they played their set and then left. so at that point, like, our fans were like, nah, we're not going. Because, like, I mean, we're all, like, early 40s, late 40s, and, understanding what that lifestyle brings. I mean, we don't want to be out until 2 in the morning at a creepy, desolate place where, even, like, the Rallies is closing, So, us 40-year-olds, we have needs. so that was the worst one.
I played a weird place with my duo, Barker and Broski. I played the Zen drum with that group, that duo. And it was out by Royal Oak, somewhere. And it was this art gallery kind of thing. And they had a stage, and they had a huge lineup, and they video recorded it live to Facebook. And everybody that was in the building went outside to smoke cigarettes during our set. And it was completely empty except my brother came out to see us. Just my brother and his partner were in the audience, and it was the weirdest thing. It's like, do they want us to play? What's the deal?
it's pretty cutthroat, and I don't
I mean,
think
it was a private event. But,
Oh, well, even then, but like
Yeah.
even like with like local shows, like so let's say like we're in like a mid-tier venue and
Yeah.
we're supporting like a group that's still on tour, but they're living out of their van. It's not
Yeah.
quite a bus tour type of thing, but you know, like they have some name recognition or whatever. Typically, those groups don't show up until 15 minutes before they're supposed to go on
Yeah.
because they have crew ready to go. So even if you're like, oh man, I get to open up for XYZ band, you know, whatever you want to call it, like unless they're like they have the spirit of Dave Grohl, and Dave Grohl will go out there and like listen to the bands that
Yeah.
are supporting.
Yeah.
Like they're pretty like, you know, we're going to dinner, you know, we've been on the road for 100 days, like
Yeah.
our ears hurt, we don't want to hear a local sporting band, you know, thank you for bringing in, you know, 15 or 20 fans, but you know, we're going to eat our tacos in peace and show up and do our work. And you know, like that's a perspective that I never quite understood, but I do understand. Like I wouldn't do that, but I understand their perspective.
Right. You know, my kid dragged me out to see a PIL concert, Johnny Lydon
Okay.
from the Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols, and we stopped off at this Mexican restaurant. You mentioned tacos, and here we are, where my kid and my brother and I, you know, just eating our meal, and across the way had to be Johnny Lydon's band, had to be the band members. And so my kid was, I just said, hey, you know, go up and say hi. No. And so I'm gutsy. And I have very little shame about doing things. So I said, hey, aren't you the guys from Public Image Limited? Yeah. Can I get a picture with you and my kid? And so I snapped a picture, and I don't know where that picture is now. But it was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
They were just out having tacos.
You have the story to share.
Yeah.
Well, I would say too, like we've had a couple times, and me specifically, where people I don't really like interact with, but see on Facebook, whatever.
Yeah.
They'll come up and just like kind of like, you know, over the last 3 weeks, be like, hey, I see you guys are doing this and this and this, and aren't you part of this band and whatever? And it's kind of like, well, yeah. So I would say anybody who's in your position, like most band people, like especially if you're not the lead singer, but if you
Yeah.
go up and say, hey, aren't you part of this group? They'll be more than happy.
They were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the better the group, the more gracious they are, I've found.
Yeah, and you know, in Public Image Limited, they were popular 20 years before that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think all of us who are in the entertainment industry, no matter if it's like 10 fans or 1,000 fans or whatever, like we're just really grateful for the support to allow us to keep playing and doing our thing.
It's a gift, man, to be able to play in front of people. You know, not just the bartender that's way over there. It's nice to actually have people digging what you're doing. And I play mostly original music.
Yeah.
You know, that I've written the words, and lately the music now. But Andy, you usually have a question that you
There's
ask.
a question, that I ask to every interviewer, so here we go.
All right.
So when you write songs for Flowers Over the Grave, did I say it right?
It's Flowers on the Grave, but I do
Flowers
the
on
same
the
thing.
Grave.
I screw up everybody's band name, so that's me.
Flowers
I
on the
understand.
Grave. Okay, so you have some original songs.
Yep.
Do you write the chords first or the lyrics first, or does it go either way depending on the song?
I think in our process, it starts with the riff.
It starts with the riff.
Yep.
So the guitar part, the chords,
Yep.
the tonality, you kind of know like the sound of it or the mood, and then you do the words.
Correct. And then, so the way our process works, and it's pretty efficient, is Kenny he has like a notepad or a notebook that he's had since he's been writing songs like forever.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps tweaking them and working them. And
Sure.
when he feels like it's ready to present to the band, like it comes out, like we start all on acoustic instruments. So
Sure.
like I'm on my cajon, and Kenny's on his acoustic, and everybody's on their acoustics. And so he'll play through the song like all the way through, like melody and everything. And for the most part, it's about like 80 to 90% done. And I'm like, oh, during this part, we could like chop a beat off, or we could do some odd time stuff. And then like Manny comes in, our bass player, and he's like, okay, well, I think, you know, this should be kind of like the bass pattern. And then Nathaniel's like, well, I think I could add these notes over the top, or this lead part over the top. And we really have an arrangement on acoustic instruments first, because we feel like if it sounds good on an acoustic instrument, when we start bringing in like the other tonalities and the drums and the cymbals and electric guitars and the pedals and all the effects. Like, we really think that the song should be good acoustically in its most stripped down essence.
So you create the song as a group. He brings in lyrics, and the band forms around it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the song structure,
Yeah.
we have some say in it, but Kenny pretty much has it done by the time
okay.
we hear
Write
it.
a word, get a third.
That's right.
Hey, you should put an and right there. Okay, I'm one of the songwriters now.
You know, we've been really cool with each other, because even like when we started, we started with like kind of a contract or a pact or whatever.
Yeah.
And because it takes more than one person to make a band successful,
Yeah.
like we decided that everything that we put out is going to be flowers on the grave.
Sure.
So we've seen so many horror stories
Yeah.
of like bands that like blow up on one song,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, like when they go to try to everybody get their cut, they find out that the lead singer was the guy who submitted the contract and submitted the tape or whatever, and he's going to get all the royalties, and the rest of the band becomes side musicians, even though the lead singer was the one who
Yeah.
Like
did
Kiss.
it. Yeah.
But the opposite of Coldplay, you know, when that guy plays the piano and does his vocal solo, and he does that song, I forget what it is, Miss You or something, and the other guys leave the stage and take a break, drummer's getting 25%, bass player's getting 25%, guitar
That's cool.
player's getting 25%,
That's cool.
because it's a Coldplay song.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Even if only one person plays the song.
And well, if you're going to do live music with a band,
Yeah.
then I think that's the way it needs to go. I've played for solo artists, and at that point you become a hired gun, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, that one's very like, you play the show, you make X number of dollars. You record the song, you're gonna make X number of dollars.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, you're basically going, well, I'm not gonna get residuals for the most part, especially if you do demos. But you're getting paid for your services, so that's
Sure.
all up front.
Yep.
And then, but the artist at that point is the one taking all the financial risk,
Yeah.
and it's their name on their brand.
Yep. Yep.
So, you know, like, I think, you know, those are complete opposites of the spectrum. And we've tried to be, I'd say, more democratic than
Yeah.
some of the things that we've seen. But with the music industry, I would say too, like, if more bands don't do that, like, it really is like you really have to work together in order to be
Right.
successful, because especially if you're an independent artist.
Yeah.
You know, there's 50,000 songs per day being added to Spotify.
Yep. That doesn't surprise me. We we were talking about the reverse release, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how we decided to do it? We decided to put our entire album on Bandcamp,
Okay. Sure.
because you can pay for it. And like, so this is like the old model of like iTunes, when people were actually making money off iTunes,
Yeah.
where, you know, you can buy all the songs, you can buy the whole album, that type of thing. So we opted that, you know, people could either pay $11 or more for the whole album, or they can wait for the streaming services as it comes out.
Yeah.
And we're leaking every song every 8 weeks.
That's nice.
Yeah, so like in the first, you know, week and a half or so, we made, I don't know, like 1,000 times more money we've ever made on streaming.
Really?
Yeah, because people were like buying the album, and we do physical copies too. So like, if you want a physical copy, that goes to $20, but we sign it. And so
Did you bring one?
I did not. You have to go on Bandcamp.
You got a wall of fame.
Oh man,
That's all. Everybody that's been on the podcast has a
Well-
CD on the wall.
oh shoot! I'll have to get one. We'll get one to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can go on the wall of shame. Fame.
Yeah, hey, you know, fine line between both.
Yeah.
But we also, as a promo, we put the entire album on one YouTube video.
Oh.
So we went from beginning to end, and then we built our own commercials in between each tune about why purchasing music keeps independent music going. And so you can find that on our YouTube channel.
Very
And
nice.
We've had really, really good response from that, so that's been cool. So people can listen to it whenever they want.
Yeah.
But if they want to have the convenience of, you know, it's inconvenient now, but you download the MP3, you sync your streaming service with it, either Apple Music or Spotify, and then it's just in your playlist. You can listen to it whenever you want.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So it's FOTG.
Yep.
So do you have a capital F, capital O, small t, and capital G?
You know, that would make sense, but we've had some capitalization like arguments over stuff, so now everything's just capitalized. So
It'd be like fog.
right. Yeah,
With a
yeah,
little T.
yeah. We just go FOTG.
Okay.
And that's our website. So www.fotg.band.
Yeah, sounds like you guys are real serious.
We
That's
really
nice.
are.
Yeah, and you are a professional musician.
Well, most days I try to be.
Well, I mean, that's what you do for a living.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course you've got all the ins and outs. You know, Andy is a professional musician. I'm just a schmuck who's sitting over to your left.
That's okay. That's okay, man. You know, like,
I mean, just a lowly mental health and substance abuse therapist.
well, dude, that's important too.
I know, I'm kind of self-deprecation for an attempt at humor.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
not
good.
sympathy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I missed that part. No, you're doing good. I think too that the reason why there's 50,000 songs uploaded on Spotify every day is I think some bands are looking at this is going to be a way to make passive money,
Yeah.
and it really isn't that. And you guys said that you're fans of Rick Beato, me too. Like, he did this entire like down the rabbit hole AI thing, and I saw an article like he was talking about it, and then I saw an article where like a person just as a joke started a fake band using AI, and they're making more money than we ever will. Because like people are like, oh, this sounds really nice, and they're making like $5,000 a month on Spotify.
Oh.
And to kind of give you like an idea of how many streams that is, when we're selling our album at $20 a pop, because you know that you're paying for independent live music, and we
Yeah.
put a lot of time into this.
Of course.
It would take 4,000 streams to
Yeah.
match that. And
You know, I have made
jeez,
money from CD Baby.
That's awesome.
Maybe about 6-7 years ago, they sent me a check for $25. And probably about 2 years ago, they uploaded to my PayPal $25.
Nice.
I have made $55 in the past 10 years.
Fantastic.
I know.
I think that's more than what when we first started working, like right at the beginning of like the Spotify boom.
Yeah.
Like Kenny had a tune on there, and it's one of the very first songs that he wrote and put up there.
Oh.
And at this point today, at like 7 years later, it has about 40,000 plays. But at the time when we started the group, we were making about $55 to $60 a month just with plays
Yeah,
and passive.
yeah.
Well, this is not a dig on Spotify, because they figured out a model that they're going to make money first. You know,
Of course.
they're the ones who own the, like we said, the big giant farmers market, and they own the land, and they put the roof over it, and
Yeah.
whatever. But like it's gone from $65 a month, and we still have just as many streams every month, and now we're making like way less than that, because now you have to have 1,000 followers on Spotify for them to release the money that you've made. So we're small.
They keep
So I'll
moving
never-
the cheese. Yeah,
Yes.
YouTube does that too.
I'll
Yes.
never make any money, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, you have to really love what you're doing, and I make the joke, the other guys do too. I don't play golf, but like if this were my golf hobby, I'm paying just as much money if I was trying to be a serious golfer.
Yep.
So
Yep, I get that.
yeah,
You know, I had a funny joke with my buddy Broski during our tenure together that during COVID we saved so much money from gigging.
yeah,
'Cause,
yeah.
the gas, something for meals, and all that stuff, and the little pittance that we got periodically. But we saved so much money
Yeah,
by
yeah.
not gigging.
It's just really true. I mean, we spend
sad.
a lot of money to travel.
Yeah.
But it's nice, and I think like even though we're doing it for the art, the small part of our musicians' egos, we want people to clap for us,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like I think as
That's
an
it.
artist, we want to be recognized that we're even doing something.
Right.
Like I'd rather have people like get online or even live and just put their thumbs down and boo us off the
Something.
stage,
Something.
than just kind of sit there and not like engage or whatever.
And I look at it as, you put money in the tip jar. That says I really appreciate what you're doing. I don't the money. I have a good day job.
Yeah,
It supports my world. Different for you guys because this is your livelihood. But you just put some money in the tip jar, and this says I really like you.
yeah,
I mean, yesterday I played a farmer's market in Adrian,
okay,
and I made $2.50. But those people appreciated me, and some of the vendors gave me treats. And so, and I got paid to do it too. Like I split it with Jonathan, so $25. But still, we had a lot of fun.
yeah. No, I think you bring up a really good point where that you have a really good day job that allows you to do your thing.
Yeah.
And I think that like that's sort of like the unwritten rule in musicians that nobody likes to talk about, and I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it on this podcast, but I'm a collegiate band director by day, and I'm allowed to stay in music and have enough time to practice and continue working on this thing. And my wife teaches school in Adrian Public Schools, and I spent time there too, and it was 10 years, and it was fantastic, and met a lot of great people. But the public schools and the teachers union, I don't know if you guys are pro union, but they've really fought to make sure that there's a fair step increase when appropriate, and they make sure that the healthcare is really good. And for me, like, I've had some health stuff happen over the last 3 years, and had we not had that health insurance, like, we'd be toast.
I know.
It's really like it's tough. So, like, I think that's the thing that people don't like to talk about is hopefully you have a good job or a partner who has a great job with health benefits, so you can continue doing your art.
Yep. I'm a contractor. There's a therapist, or I have private practice too, and my wife has the insurance, and that's nice. Yeah,
it's infrastructure, right? So, like, if you want your roads and bridges to be nice and ship your stuff and get where you need to go, like, your healthcare keeps people, like, building the economy and doing that.
I wish healthcare wasn't a luxury. I wish it was more of a right.
For sure. Totally agree.
But, and I do appreciate unions. I've never worked for one, but what I was told years ago when I worked at Lenawee Community Mental Health, we had Department of Social Services, well, DHHS now, in the same building. And what I learned was their union helps keep our wages competitive. And I don't know that people really understand that.
Well, and really it's sometimes, in what I saw in education at least, is sometimes the strength of a union is inversely proportional to how competent the leadership is.
Well, that's it.
So, like, if leaderships if they're making really horrible decisions that impact students, right, first, and like teachers' livelihoods or whatever, then they group together and organize, and they're like, no, you can't do that. I found, like, the best times where administration and unions work together, it's mutual respect.
Well,
and they're like, of course you deserve a good wage. This is the amount of money we have. Let's work this out. And not try to, like, be sneaky with stuff. I mean, as soon as people are sneaky, you smell it. You deal with that in the music industry. You deal with that in education, everywhere.
Well, we're not going to talk about politics, though.
That's okay. That's okay.
Too late.
Yeah, if you got to edit out, it's cool.
No. I was going bigger in terms of sneaky deals and
jeez,
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Not to talk about politics, but on June 21st. We were playing at the Blind Pig.
Okay.
We were playing with a couple really great groups. Set to Spiral, Set the Gig, so call out to them. And as we were going on stage, one of my buddies who came up to see us showed me on his phone that we bombed Iran. And so we're walking on stage, like, with this news, and we're like, guys, this might be our last gig. Like, let's, like, freaking rip it, because this is the only thing we can do right now.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
We can't run out and like go hide under something, because we might not be able to do anything about it. So let's just do this thing.
I like what you're saying, because music builds spirit. And I've got this plaque on my wall that says, "Music is what feelings sound like."
Yeah.
And all this stuff is going on in the world, but we can bring a little joy to some people's lives, and that's our gift to them, not only to ourselves.
Well, for sure, and I think some of the best music came out of the protest music in the '60s, right? And a response to that, and like if you like, especially since popular music and the radio or whatever, like you can see these time periods of what people were struggling with and going through, and it was a reflection in the music. And I think more artists need to be open to responding in a visceral way to, like, what's happening to them. Because I think sometimes too, like, as artists, we're afraid to really say the thing that everybody knows what's going on, and we don't want to turn off potential fans, right? But, like, I mean, dude, Fortunate Son. Everybody loves that tune, and it's freaking anti-war, you know? And it's calling everything out. So, like, I mean,
my friend David Ruth, longtime friend, he has organized Michigan Musicians Resistance. I think that's what it's called, and that's where artists send him like a protest song, and he puts it together with all these other songs and promotes it, and I think he donates the money. I'm not really sure, but I don't know if you know who he is.
I don't. No, unfortunately.
Well, he graduated from Adrian High School back in 1989.
Okay.
Before your time.
Well, congrats. And, he should contact the Adrian Public Schools Alumni Board, because I'm sure they'd love to hear from him.
Yeah.
And that group does a wonderful job, too, just keeping people connected.
Yeah, the conservative Adrian?
Huh?
Conservative Adrian?
Adrian High School? Oh, no. Well, I mean, they... I think they like to keep tabs on what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
They've done a really good job, and especially with they have a fight like the Adrian Education Schools Foundation.
Yeah.
They really work hard to fundraise and maintain a body of money to offer scholarships and grants for kids to do stuff. And
Yeah,
so
that's
I
nice.
think they want to hear what alumni are doing, whether they agree with it or not. And it just depends on who's running it at the time.
So now, do you take your students from Siena out to performances? Are they just organized performances, or?
So the way that our model has been working for the last few years with recruiting, a lot of our students have decided they want to be musicians late in their high school career.
Oh, yeah.
So they're just kind of I love music. Sometimes the bug bites them late, and they're like, now what? And so our job really was to, build we called it the Forge unofficially, but build this intensive program where they start with whatever they have, and by the end they're super competent musicians and super competent
Nice.
Teachers. And sometimes I think students are thrown out into a professional experience and they're not ready for it.
Yeah.
And for us, we really worked hard to caretake these performances. So obviously, on my side of the department with instrumental, we have marching band, and we have our semester concerts, and we have pep band for basketball and campus events. And then for the choir side, Kelly's into the sacred music, the heavy classical sacred music, choral stuff.
Oh, nice.
And so he has a connection with a parish in Chicago, St. John's Campus, and that's the parish where the Chicago Symphony musicians play.
Okay.
And so they put on these masterworks, these entire masses. He took me down there, and they were doing the Mozart Requiem Mass in context. So they're in this giant church, and the priests are coming out, and the altar boys are coming out, and you hear the coming out from the choir loft. The music director, his name is I don't know his last name, but they call him Massimo. He used to be the music director for a small church in Italy called the Vatican.
Okay.
And so
I've
he's
heard of it.
so he's there, and so they've got the original instrumentation of these masses, and the priests know how to do these masses with these masterworks. And so
Nice.
he was able to build his choir so that sometimes when they do these masterworks, the choir comes down and sings. So he was able to program the stuff that our kids were doing in the semesters to what St. John's Campus was going to be doing later.
That's very cool.
And so that was kind of their experience. So for me, I was doing kind of the marching band, the jazz band, sort of the secular side, and then he was doing the sacred side. So all of our music majors had to be both in band and choir.
Sure.
So that they got both sides of that curriculum.
When I was going to Siena, I had the tremendous opportunity to sing in Carnegie Hall. And what we sang was Haydn's Mass in Time of War,
Nice.
or also known as Paukenmesse, because Pauken is timpani.
Right.
But what many people don't realize is a lot of the great classical composers, from Wagner to Haydn and Bach, it's all church music. It's music written to be played in the church, and that's what it was for. I know 90 minutes is a long time, but hey, that's how long a mass lasts when you listen to that music. So
There is something to be said about it, because it's like when you listen to it on a CD or an album, or even if you go and hear a symphony orchestra play, it's okay, that's really powerful. But when you're sitting in the place that it was built for, and then you have all the sense and the feel, and you're sitting next to people, and they have confession during the mass. So while they're saying the mass, they have all the priests in their own it's offices, right, all along the edge, and people just line up Like as soon as they feel compelled, like they just go stand in line and do confession. Like during the mass, and I'm just like, oh my god!
So it's
this is
almost
awesome.
like a religious experience.
It was. It was
Almost.
It was aesthetic for sure. It was an aesthetic experience. Like you just get goosebumps the whole time.
Yeah.
So it was. I mean, they do a wonderful job out there.
Darn, Siena has done such great things. I have so many great memories about all the different things they did. And you know, when I went to Siena, if there was a class you wanted to take at Adrian College, you could just drive across town, go take the class, come back, and you get credit for Siena for taking that class.
Oh,
So
nice.
I took all sort of classes at Adrian College, and there were Adrian College students in some of my classes, and we went back and forth. And I can't believe it's closing, but
It wasn't like that in my day.
Yeah, it's not really like that as I'm teaching right now too. But you know, at this point, like, you know, the last 3 or 4 years, we've been very creative to make sure stuff happens.
Yeah,
As far as like
that's
the arts departments, we haven't really worked together, but
No, that's too bad.
there might be other departments on campus that are just kind of like making it happen. But
Yeah.
you know, I think next year it's going to be like creativity is going to be really kind of a term for we don't have the money to do it, but we still have to make it happen. So let's be creative, you know. So we'll see.
We started out with that, and it comes back towards the end with this somber loss of this great landmark in our community. And I'm sure so many wonderful people have come out of Siena Heights University.
Yeah, they sure have. And,
Yeah.
you know, like Kelly and I are really proud of our students who are out there,
Yeah.
either in the industry or not even in the industry, because
Yeah.
they really put in the time and were great musicians, but even more importantly, they were great people.
I don't know if you know this, but the students make the college.
What? The tuition paying students keep account. You know, and really, like, all jokes aside, like the last
Yeah.
3 years, we've had record enrollment.
Yeah.
So, like,
Weird.
if that's the case and our beds are full and things are still happening, I mean, you know, like someday when they write the history book and people go through the books and really find out what happened, I'm sure there'll be an aha moment. But other than that, you know, it really is a shame.
That is a shame. But we're going to spend our time together providing as much entertainment for ourselves and others as we can, because music is what feelings sound like.
Hear, hear.
that is true. And hey, if you're listening to this podcast and you find yourself in that same situation, like I release songs on Spotify and I only got 3 listens and I don't know what to do. Hey, well, at least you know that there's some other people like all 3 of us that have, you know, released songs on Spotify and trying to promote them and get people to listen to them. But, you know, one of the secrets that I've come up with is don't just release a song on Spotify and then go home and sit on the couch.
Right.
Yeah.
There's another list of things to do. That's your first step, okay? So not that I want to give away all my secrets right now, but I don't know, maybe I'll give away a few. But hey, have you made a music video for your songs? If not, play your song track and then start pantomiming, sing along. Get yourself a green screen, get some cool backdrops, go outside. Hey, it's free. And if you need help, we have a studio here where we create music and music videos, so you can always rent some studio time. We can whip together a music video.
And they can't see it, but we actually have, Dan, you can attest to
Sure.
this, a green screen.
Yeah.
It's right there behind the cameras.
And we have all these backdrops and lights, so we can make a music video in one day.
Yeah.
Also, you know, another thought is, like, when you watch my music lesson videos and stuff, which, you know, are free on YouTube, I don't really make that much money from my scrolling tab or guitar lesson videos. I make, you know, a few pennies here and there. But what makes money is down at the bottom it says, don't you want to buy this book? Because there's a product at the bottom. And you can buy blank sheet music books or guitar lesson tab books, or if it's a lesson with scales or whatever, you can buy the tab for all the scales, and there's a backing track, and so all that stuff's available.
That's nice.
And you know, for some of your videos that you make for your band and stuff, or even just any random video you post on YouTube, hey, if at the bottom it was like, do you want to play the same brand of sticks that I play? Here's where you get them. Okay, maybe you only make 9% if someone clicks on that and buys it, but if 100 people buy a set of sticks this month, then hey, this $100 for you.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I actually have about 7 full-length CDs on the interwebs. You can, I mean, Barker and Broski, you'd have to go to Broski's site, but you go to Michael Snyder Barker, and you can buy directly from CD Baby singles or entire albums. And I've even got some other solo work on there with my friend Mike Rozich and a few other, and Dave Roof, Bark and Roof Tales. There's a lot of opportunity to, give us money.
Well, really, I mean, I think music now is switching back to almost like a Renaissance area,
Yeah.
like Patreon sort of patronage.
Right.
We're going to pay for this artist to do stuff on purpose because we
Right.
value it.
Yeah.
I think with streaming and YouTube, I mean, what amazing technologies.
Yeah.
But I think what it's done is it's convinced people that the stuff that you hear artists do should be free. And
Well,
I mean, for those of you who've even looked at like the cost of a cymbal lately, like that's not free.
No.
So if for any artist that you really, really support, if they have a merch table or if they have stuff you can buy online or if you
Yeah.
can buy their album, I mean, if you're listening to them more than once a day, you really need to
That's how they're going to make it.
you gotta suck it up and support them or else
Buy
they're gonna
that
go.
T-shirt or coffee mug or
But you
whatever
can
it is.
also
Yep.
drop some money here for the.
Hey, yeah, if you can leave us a star in the comments for $1 or $2. Anybody that supports the channel by giving us a super chat, we'll give you a shout out during the next episode.
Absolutely. Have we had any yet?
We haven't had any yet, but we're trying.
You can be the
You could be the
first.
first. Yeah.
Dan, this has been a wonderful chat, and the gift to me is I've gotten to know so many musicians better than I've ever known them through this process.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to meet new people. This isn't the first time we've met, but this is the first time we've really met.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I agree, yeah. We're trying to get to know every musician in the Michigan music scene, one person at a time.
We might have I was thinking we could have a big get-together podcast for our 1-year anniversary.
We should.
Yeah.
We should have people play,
Yeah,
and we can re-promote everyone again, too.
yeah. So stay tuned. More news in the near future. I've been Michael Snyder Barker for Studio C, the listening room,
And I'm Andy Schiller.
and our special guest, Dan Kesterke.
Kesterke.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. See you next time.